Hello, and welcome to Nerds in the Corner. I'm your host, Bill C.
And I'm your co-host, Justin McNeese.
In today's episode, we'll cover a host of topics. Justin, what seems to be floating to the top of listeners' interest?
Yeah, thanks, Bill. There's several topics that we're going to be covering today. One topic that's been in the news and been talked about so much, I think we're one viral video away from it becoming a skincare product, and that would be UAPs.
UAPs.
So we're going to spend a little bit of time in today's episode talking about the November 2024 UAP Senate hearing. Fascinating topic. I can't wait to dive into that with you and our audience. We're going to talk about plasma and plasma physics as some of the topics of discussions around UAPs potentially are plasma-like phenomena. So we'll connect the dots there. And then finally, we'll round out the episode with an incredibly interesting article or paper rather in the Journal of Modern Physics that really ticks and ties these conversations together holistically, right? So we have a Senate hearing, we have Physics 101 about plasma, and then we have the Journal of Modern Physics saying, backing up and supporting what we're going to be talking about on today's episode. So we won't share everything from the Senate hearing, but there's some great clips that we'd like to show you now, and we'll get more into that right after this.
Do you believe, just for the record, that the federal government, any part of the federal government, is knowingly concealing evidence about UAPs from the public?
Yes, sir.
100%.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
This is a presentation from the UATP task force. This is completely absurd. It's nuts, this level of censorship, of redaction on a document. It shows the redaction of how many reports they've collected, for how many years. 2 of the 3 potential explanations are blacked out. The Pentagon, the intelligence community is treating us like children. It's time for us to know the truth about this. I think that we can handle it.
Yes, sir.
Are there UAP programs operating without proper congressional oversight?
100%.
What are they?
Unfortunately, sir, I would have to have that conversation in a closed session.
I know you said that. A lot of people are frustrated with those kind of answers, but we're asking those kind of questions so you all know what the heck we're up against. You also...
So why do you think that this is significant for us nerds in the corner to be aware of this? Why is it important scientifically?
Well, scientifically and societal, I think that it's unique because we're seeing a change in the landscape of scientific conversation, right? So where fiction is being removed from science fiction and we're spending time putting math and physics and all these other components of the scientific community into things that conspiracy theorists and like-minded individuals have been talking about for decades. So that just to hear people in our own government even breaching the topic of these conversations it's been very interesting to me to dive into. How do you feel about it?
Similarly, in that it seems like permission now is granted by various institutions. These information on some of the things that they were talking about has been around a long time, but it wasn't talked about in the halls of Congress openly in front of TV cameras.
Yeah.
I think that's what's different. And I feel like institutions no longer have to be afraid to be open that they're talking about it. You mentioned discussing later a journal from an article rather from the Journal of Modern Physics. And it's regarding plasmas that may be behaving sentiently around the space shuttle. These are photographs released by NASA.
Yeah.
I think just the fact that, U.S. senators and representatives are talking about this with highly functioning military officers in a scientific way, wanting to know just the facts, well, I think a lot of people will follow in that style and say, well, there's some information out there. We don't feel like we're going to be in trouble or censored in any way for talking about it. And so just like us, here we are able to talk about it without fear of ridicule. We may get some ridicule, But it won't be for the topic.
Yeah, no, well, it definitely won't be just for the way that our general personalities are.
More for judgments on our character.
No, I love the way that you put that, permission granted, right? The research and the just upskilling of knowledge that I've had to do on the topic to prepare for this episode, it really brought out the Star Wars and Ender's Game kind of inner nerd.
Yeah. It's been
inside
fun
me.
reading.
Yeah, it's been I have thoroughly enjoyed researching the topic, and I encourage everybody, as we drop the links in the bio of the episode, please go and read and watch some of these videos. I think you'll enjoy it just as much as we did. But to kind of bring us into our first topic, so the UAP Senate hearing from November of 2024, and I want to make sure that I give the credit to and the sites here appropriately. This was a Senate committee hearing that was hosted by the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform Subcommittee on Cybersecurity, IT, Government Innovation, and also partnering with the Subcommittee on National Security, the Border, and Foreign Affairs. The topic of this discussion was unidentified anomalous phenomena exposing the truth. That sounds like a Twilight Zone episode, Bill. How did you feel when you first heard of this Senate hearing happening, and then after you watched it, what were some thoughts that went through your head?
Just at the gravity of the speakers, the audience that was senators and congressmen. So these were folks who were previously hesitant to speak on this. Admiral Galet, he's had a long career of doing his job well, and didn't want to speak much about it, and now he is, and he has a track record of being a solid U.S. Navy admiral, U.S. Navy officer, and he's done a good job. He hasn't done outlandish things. He doesn't say other crazy things. He just says, hey, there's information out there. There's evidence that suggests that there's things in the ocean we know nothing about that we should know more about, and perhaps some people do, and the rest of us should know. And he wasn't saying a lot of projections or a lot of opinions. He just said, this is what I know.
This is what I believe to be true from my own experience.
Yeah, and it wasn't. He wasn't saying, again, that the term believe. He wasn't making conclusions necessarily. To believe, you sort of making a conclusion that says, well, I feel like that this has this outcome. He was just saying there's videos of this is happening. There are legitimate military officers and submarine captains who are seeing this. They're not jumping to any conclusions, but it's being seen, and we can't talk about it. And so that's what he was saying is, there's stuff out there that we haven't been allowed to talk about it. We should talk about it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that he captured the essence of that very well when he was speaking on the topic. And so, for frame of reference for the audience, we're talking about Dr. Tim Gallaudet, retired Rear Admiral from the U.S. Navy and current CEO of Ocean STL Consulting LLC. He was one of the major key players and witnesses in this Senate hearing. Bill, give us a rundown of the key witnesses and speakers here.
We had Luis Elizondo. He was sort of the inheritor of the Senator Harry Reid project about looking into some reports on non-human intelligence. And I guess he has finished his looking into it, and apparently wasn't allowed to speak openly after he had what he had to say, and sort of blew the whistle. And so he's sort of one of the celebrities in whistleblowers right now.
He's become sort of the rock star of this topic, right? Very just gravitating. Everybody's gravitating to him as a subject matter expert.
Yeah, he's a long history of being an employee of the CIA, involved in all sorts of things that apparently have nothing to do with UAPs, but inherited this project due to his ability to be resourceful and see a job through. And so he has done this, and even after his supervisor says, "Okay, you've gone far enough," he says, "No, I want to keep talking." And so,
Well, I love the way that he simplifies the discussion.
Yeah.
Right. He breaks it down in a way, and he really threads the needle well
Yeah.
between what he can and can't talk about, and how he shares
little
that
bit.
knowledge.
yeah, in an entertaining way, he's got his routine down. It is frustrating, to be honest. His NDA, his non-disclosure agreements are so tight. You know, he teases you a little bit.
Yeah.
He says, "Well, I know that there's this and this and this, but I can't talk about it."
Right.
You know, there's a lot of that going
Yeah.
on, but
Yeah.
he does have some good information. But I believe he'll be able to share more as the weeks go by.
Yeah, and I think I'm curious to see where it goes. Right,
Yeah.
I'm curious to see where it goes. Another polarizing kind of figure within this conversation is the investigative journalist Michael Schellenberger.
Yeah,
He had some pretty powerful things to say in the clips that we showed, and I think he's a very vocal component of transparency. And if anybody knows Mr. Schellenberger's work, he's kind of known for really getting in the trenches
Right.
and offering groundbreaking stories. Right?
yeah.
Sorry.
He's been the guy that you can, if you had something legit, especially on this topic, and you didn't know where to go. Well, he's been one of those guys you could
Yeah.
go to. There's others of those now come into the limelight, but he's got some good information, and he knows he's got some information that, you know, lots more than he wasn't able to show at the Senate hearing.
Yeah. What about Michael Gold? How do you feel about having someone who served on a NASA UAP independent study team being a part of this this conversation?
I
right?
think
it
again,
really has
they
validity.
chose him for the panel because he's a legit character. He's currently still, or recently was still functioning at a high level in his role. He's had other tasks and things since then. No one's refuting what he's saying. He just adds a lot of weight and validity for folks that say, "Okay, are you all telling the truth?" And I guess he's saying he is, and they're saying he's an honest character, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's the combination of individuals that are on the panel of witnesses. It was so fascinating to watch and listen to them share their stories, because it all connects on a bigger picture, but each one had an individualized perspective, and it's hard to believe that there's so many highly educated, well certified individuals that share a similar experience, and it just can't be what we're thinking, right? There's got to be more. There's got to be something there.
I think that was the point of the exercise. And also, if you think about, you know, these individuals who they're talking to, they're senators and representatives. So one of the people they were talking to is Representative Tim Brette, right? He wasn't a UFO guy.
Right.
He's just one of these people on the committee. Now, what he is famous for is he says that his constituents want transparency. They want to know what crazy shenanigans their money is being spent on, and that's, you know, he says it that way, and that's how he approached the question. He's like, "There's obviously something going on here. You're saying that there's something going on.
Yeah.
What is it? This sounds expensive, and this is our money."
His line of questioning was incredibly direct and very. He came out swinging.
Yeah.
Right. Like Tennessee in the third Saturday of October.
I think he had it on his mind.
He was very, very pointed. And to your point, right, there's who knows what level of tax dollars being spent to protect these programs, to set up these programs, to collect this information, right? And we don't have access to it. It's not in the public domain. And one of the things I really respect about Representative Brette is that he actually co-authored a bill, the UAP Transparency Act, right? And we'll drop that in the bio so you guys can look into that more if you're interested in it. But I love a quote that he said when he was kind of introducing the bill and talking about the bill, is that, you know, he said it's not about finding little green men or flying saucers. It's about forcing the Pentagon and federal agencies to be transparent with the American people. And I think that this entire dialogue that we're having is it's really representative of that.
Yes, I think so. And he has his obvious Tennessee Southern drawl, but at that moment, I think he spoke not only for the rest of the country, but for the world. I think the world wants to know. All citizens of the planet are curious, and I don't know if he realized who he spoke for at the time of speaking in. And I will say, since we're probably geographically not far away from Representative Burchett, we would love to have him on the show. We will be reaching out. Now, this is not a religious or a political show in any way, and we'll try to get him off of politics, which he doesn't seem to want to linger on anyway. But I would like to ask him a few science questions since he's been talking to some folks.
Well, we'd love to talk to him more about the UAP Transparency Act, and Tennessee has a history of volunteers leading the way in different aspects of our nation, and why not a representative from Tennessee to lead the charge?
He wants to sign up. I can tell you already. He wants to sign up for that.
Why not let him lead the charge on the UAP discussion, right? And what I think is also pretty interesting about this act that was co-authored by Tim Brette is it's going to require the president to direct federal agencies and departments to make all documents relating to UAPs available to the public within 270 days.
Yeah,
right.
That's another point of why the Senate hearing is so important. It stirred the pot enough that the executive branch and the legislative branch are going to have to respond to the question.
They can no longer give the political answer. Right? We're
past that.
Yeah, this is going to be direct dialogue, and they're going to be forced to answer to it. Right? They're going to be forced to say, here's how I think, or here's how I feel, or this is how I would like to see funds appropriated for these specific agencies or the topics that we're discussing, right? So we're in an exciting time, right? We're in a time that I think the sky's the limit when it comes to these type of things, and like you said earlier, permission granted, right? So we welcome any kind of conversation in the comments or any additional thoughts that you guys may have on some of the topics that we're discussing. We'd love to chat with you. Kind of want to jump into one of the other things that came out of the Senate hearing is a government agency called Arrow. Can you talk to our audience a little bit about what Arrow is?
I was new to Arrow as well. I'm previously not a UFO guy. This just happens to be the science questions being asked. But Arrow was apparently a U.S. government entity, all-domain anomaly resolution office. So was sort of a repository of information of unidentified anomalous phenomenon being recorded by military individuals and private.
Hey, I'll be honest with you, I got super excited when I was watching the hearing and they said Arrow. I was expecting Oliver Queen to pop out, right? Yeah. And committee woman Mace be like, "You failed this city."
It was close to that.
I was like, finally, they're partnering up. He's partnering up with the government. We're gonna get some real answers out of this. Right?
I like it when Nancy Mace looks over her glasses.
She had that definitive stare down, right? Yeah, that was incredible. And then one of the other points of conversation, I think this is going to be something of interest to our audience, and she was incredibly. I don't know if bold's the right word, or just the way that she handled this particular topic of Immaculate Constellation, right?
Intelligence, and Representative Luna just told me if I say Immaculate Constellation, I'll be on some list, maybe a FISA warrant. So come at me, bro, I guess. But
and the millennial in me chuckled quite significantly when she said, "Come at me, bro."
She said that.
I thought that was hilarious. And, but also,
that's the point. So you have a representative who's kind of a no-nonsense lady, and she's hearing from generals and whoever saying, "We best not talk about this." And she's saying, "Or what? Or else there'll be trouble." Yeah. And her response is, "Come at me, bro."
Yeah.
So another reason, like, oh, what? I guess she's okay with it. I guess they're saying, "Go ahead."
It was incredible. Yeah. It was incredible. When she said that, I watched it. I played it back like 10 times because it was so funny. And just to see someone in the government respond that way. You don't often get to see government officials be human beings, and that was a very human moment for her. And so I really enjoyed that response. You know, as I was watching it though, Bill, in my head, I'm like, what even is Immaculate Constellation? To me, it sounds like a damn dating app, right?
Well, if it's not, it should be. I don't know either. This was a new one for me.
Yeah, I mean, swipe right if you're into stars that really align. That was my initial thought process when I heard this,
Yeah.
right?
So what was Nancy Mace talking about? What is...
Yeah, I mean, there's very limited research out there. You know, from my understanding, it's a special access program, so there's not a ton of data surrounding it, at least for the general public. But
But they don't want us talking about it.
yeah, they don't want us talking.
They don't
about
want
it,
her
so
talking about it. And probably not us either.
We got to be careful. We're going to end up banned. We're going to be the next TikTok.
Oh no,
Right,
that's
we're gonna
going to
be-
happen if we say Immaculate Constellation.
Yeah, we're going to be on a some kind of list. But from my understanding, it's a special access program that collects intelligence on unidentified aerial phenomena. And going back to my earlier comment about Luis Elizondo, there were some topics and programs that he brought up in 2017 that kind of led to the inception of, well, supposedly led to the inception of the Immaculate Constellation program. So again, this guy's like the Elvis of UAPs, right? He's everywhere, and everything he says kind of creates a sense of awe. And they're like, oh,
Yeah.
well, I guess if Mr. Elizondo says it, then we need to do more from looking into it, right?
With a name like that, it's not like there's spaceships involved. It sounds big and far away. Maybe
It's one of those buzzwords that like a marketing team came up with, right? I can picture Gwyneth Paltrow trying to come up with a name for a new scented candle, and somebody said, well, let's call it Immaculate Constellation.
Immaculate
You can just
Constellation.
Yeah, you can just smell.
Yeah. Okay. I can see,
you know.
it's got an aroma. It smells a fleet of ships.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it smells like SpaceX in here, you know. Yeah, I don't know. Some of these things that it's just like as they become, how ridiculous can some things be, or how ridiculous can some things sound? But also, it's so freaking interesting, right?
Yes.
Even if it's all BS, right? Even if all of this is BS,
Right. Even if it's the biggest hoax of all time.
yeah, it's still incredibly interesting to read about. And just number one, these people need to be, you know, some of these guys need to help George R.R. Martin finish his series,
Right.
because they've weaved a web here, right?
Yeah.
If it's not true and it's a hoax, then these guys can tell a story.
Right. Right. Just in the levels of it. So just last night, we may talk about this on a future episode. There's release of the egg footage, right?
Yeah.
So what is that? We don't know yet. It just,
You know what I think is the most exciting about this topic of discussion is that the commitment that we're seeing to destigmatizing UAP reporting, which I think is going to go a long way for our commercial and our military personnel, specifically our pilots and our individuals that are in the Navy, that are out on these ships, that are seeing these things, as well as just everyday people like me and you that may think that we encounter something, whether we do or don't, right? It gives us the opportunity, I think, through these conversations, it's giving people more confidence and more safe haven to be able to share this information and have these conversations, which you'll have to weed through the hosts and weed through the people that just want their 15 minutes of fame to find the raw data that truly is driving the scientific discussion. But I think it's pretty cool to see that the ability is there to even do that now.
yeah, that's what I want. As a science nerd, I want the raw data. I just want images.
Yeah. I just want to be able to talk
I don't
about
want opinions.
like we're doing right now. You know, maybe in the future we'll do a part 2 to this episode.
Yeah, I hope so.
And we'll have way more information than we have now, and clear cut data and
Yeah.
and things to be able to reference back to. And I think that's exciting. That's exciting for anybody that has any interest in these topics to say, wow, like
We need to get Admiral Galet on the show.
that would be incredible.
Yeah.
That would be incredible. Admiral Galet, if you're listening, we only have 200 viewers right now, but with you on the show, I'm sure we could hit 350.
Right.
Good God. Yeah, I mean, I think so. I know how I personally feel, and if you're watching this episode, I'd love to hear how you feel in the comments section. But Bill, what do you think the impact of these hearings? What do you think it's going to have on the scientific and the societal discussions regarding UAPs? Right, we've talked about how interesting it is to destigmatize those things, but what do you think the impact of this is truly going to be as we move forward on these topics?
I think it gives you sort of a permission granted sort of approach here on, because these are topics that, again, have been around a long time, been discussed in darker corners of society with various levels of legitimacy, and now it's being said by high-end individuals, high-performing government officials in the halls of Congress to U.S. representatives who were not previously UFO people. This is not an agenda that they came with. This was just something that landed in their plate, and they're trying to
Make sense of it.
make the dollars and cents of it. And who's leading this outfit?
Yeah.
I think that's their question. Well, who's in charge? No one or some very hidden group seems to be the answer.
I love that you said that, right? Who is in charge? And these are not UFO people. These are not little green man or tinfoil hat conspiracy theorists. These are respected representatives of our nation. They're people that have never probably spent much time thinking about these topics until the public said, "Hey, we deserve to know." Right? We want to hear about these things, and we deserve to know where our tax dollars are going. How do you think that this is going to be, with the incoming president? How do you think that this is going to be handled from a divvying up of resources perspective?
I think the resources will have to be redivvied. I think this is the hot topic.
Yeah.
The hot topic. So this and conflict in the Middle East, and that's going to be the things that the populace is going to be harassing the new administration about.
I'd love to be a fly on the wall in one of those meetings, right? We're gonna give so many billions of dollars to the Middle East, but also I got to make sure that we get to do the study on UAPs.
We got to send some towards the aliens here. Yeah, apparently that's a conversation that's got to happen.
That would be such an incredible conversation to be a part of. It would go right over my head, right? I'm a small guy, so it would go right over my head. But I would love. I could offer zero to that discussion, but I would love to hear it.
And also, I think monies will openly be going toward these programs. Before it was covert and hidden, and monies had to be skimmed or projects exaggerated in cost, so it could be leftover monies could be diverted. But now you can
Interesting.
without hiding it.
Yeah, without hiding it, right? Do you think with the interest from the general public and the transparency that's going on right now that us as individuals would be interested in publicly funding some of this research?
Oh, I think so.
There was an opportunity to say, hey, you can give $100 a month to find out how to reverse engineer a UAP, and we can give you $6K on a camera, right?
That's right. We'll go fund me some gravitic propulsion project that suddenly doesn't seem so ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's actually a pretty good idea.
Yeah, I think that would be amazing. Fund rise for UAPs, right? So instead of investing in real estate, you're investing in further research.
Ooh, off-world real estate. That's the new REI, the new REIT class.
Yeah.
Off-world real estate.
Yeah, trademark, by the way. So
That's right. So all of you capital asset managers out there, you have reason to watch Nerds in the Corner. We're just slinging ideas like hotcakes out
yeah,
there.
we're just throwing it out there and seeing what sticks, right? No, okay, I think, wow, that would be, I would do that. I'm so
Buy an off-world asset.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to be a squire on Mars, right, and just get a little piece of red clay to
And
to
defend
bring
it
back.
to the end from the natives.
No, I'm not going to defend anything.
No.
I can't fight at all.
Just plant your flag.
Yeah, I just want to have a little tiny Justin flag.
Yeah.
A toothpick with a little white napkin.
Yeah.
In
But your role would be to populate that planet. You couldn't just be laying around. You got responsibilities once you get there.
Well, let me tell you this: if it depends on me to populate it, then
It will.
then
and terraform. Populate and terraform.
the Society of Mars will come to a screeching halt if it's up to me. Yeah, I think it's just fascinating, right? Super excited to hear about anybody watching. Please drop something, drop anything, feedback, thoughts that you have into the comments section. We'd love to read it. We'd love to hear what you have to say. I think this is such a unique conversation, a unique time in the scientific community, and I can't wait to hear from you guys. One of the things that came up, just to kind of move into our next topic of conversation here, a lot of the UAP, or not a lot, rather, let me not kind of exaggerate here, but some of the UAPs that have been potentially been seen or examined have been likened to or subject to the physics and phenomena of plasmoids or naturally occurring plasma. So that some suggest we're not really chasing some type of alien spacecraft, but plasma phenomena, right? So let's dive into whether these lights in the sky are extraterrestrial or just nature's neon light show.
We hope you're enjoying this episode of Nerds in the Corner. If so, please like and subscribe so you'll know when we discuss topics like
Archaeologists discovering a vast Maya city in the southeastern jungles of Campeche, Mexico.
Surely You Jest.
Nope, that's right, Bill. Accidentally discovered by a grad student using LiDAR technology. So take a seat, tune in to episode 2 and see where science and laughter collide on Nerds in the Corner.
I have to tell you one more time.
So the majority of these UAPs that people have seen could be related to plasma or plasma-like phenomena. So I want to go into our next topic of discussion, which is what is a plasma, talk a little bit about plasma physics and how that applies to the UAPs that we're talking about. And, you know, we're not just chasing alien spacecraft per se, right? It could just be plasma phenomena. So, Bill, let's dive into whether these lights in the sky are extraterrestrial or just nature's neon light show. So you are much more qualified on this topic than I. So feel free to jump in and break us down on plasma
I don't know
physics.
why I would be qualified, but thank you. I think evidence is showing that there's several things up there. Some of it must be man-made. It looks like it. There does seem to be evidence that there's more than one thing here recently in the night sky. Some of them are plasmas. I'm new to this as well, thinking about a plasma as a thing that would move around in the sky. I remember hearing about plasma as this odd phase of matter, like the sun was made of plasma. That's what that's what you think about a plasma is.
I don't think anything but plasma TV, so I'm interested to learn.
Yeah, it must be similar to something like that, something magical. But we're going to talk about a paper that came out recently, and it was regarding some photographs and some imagery released by NASA and other parties showing balls of what seemed to be plasma moving around some spacecraft. And it's pretty amazing. And some of the interesting physics and science that's coming out of the conversation about how are these plasmas active, what can happen inside of a plasma. something interesting that I heard was a natural phenomenon where if you have a ball of plasma, that inside of this, that ribonucleic acids will sort of naturally crystallize into this helical structure, and in very frequent scenarios where there's nitrogen available, you form RNA essentially inside of plasmas, and that's crazy. It's really fascinating to think what role this sort of thing could play in science. But how plasma is, it's just a phase of matter, so it'd be similar like a puff of steam, or you don't picture a puff of steam having much going on, but apparently there's a lot that goes on inside a cluster of plasma, or can.
Yeah, so for what I know about plasma is it's the fourth state of matter, right? Which I did not know prior to doing this research, or maybe I did know, but I didn't remember it. It's fourth state of matter, and it can be found in our universe and common things like plasma, TV, lightning, some of the components of a neon sign, different things of that nature. What is the chemical makeup or
Of plasma?
Of plasma, yeah.
Well, it can be made of any element. So if you think about a solid, right, a cluster of atoms with lots of the energy taken out of the complex between them, such that they form a solid three-dimensional structure. If you put energy into that, the atoms will begin to lose that three-dimensional structure and roll about on each other, and that's a liquid. If you add even more energy, the atoms will begin to come apart from each other, and that's a gas. If you add even more energy, the electrons begin to come off of the nuclei of the atoms, and that's what a plasma is.
So we're talking about ionized gas.
It could be gas. Yes, if you put enough energy into a gas.
Okay. Yeah, so it's always lit, as the kids would say.
Right. The life of the party.
Yeah, life of the party. So it's the extrovert,
right,
in the four states of matter at the party, right?
Or it's a phase that's going through.
A phase is going. I like that.
Yeah, sometimes
I like
you may be solid. Like, how's he? Oh, he's rock solid.
Yeah.
How are you feeling about this? Well, we're going to be very fluid. We're not rock solid on it, but we're very fluid about it. But you're at the party. You're socializing. You bounce from person to person.
Yeah.
You're gas.
Yeah.
But when you really get lit, when you really got a lot of energy going, and you're just losing your electrons, you're in plasma mode.
Yeah. Sort of the Baker Mayfield of the states of matter, right? For my football fans out there. Yeah, no, it's intriguing. It's intriguing to think about, right? Again, me personally, I don't know that I ever paid attention to or remembered that there were four states of matter, and as committee woman Mace would say, "Come at me, bro," in the comments for not knowing that. But that's what that's what this is for. We're all learning something new, right? But to think that one thing I did learn from researching the topic is that plasmas are highly influenced by electromagnetic currency or frequencies, right? And so the explanation or potential explanation of some of the 90 to 180 degree turns and the quick propulsion of these UAPs that are being witnessed out in the world could be natural occurring plasma that is interacting with the electromagnetic I guess what is it terms or frequency of the earth, right?
Yes. I think those are the questions being asked. What if there are clusters of plasma moving about that seem to be responding to stimuli of some sort, is that actually what's happening? And if so, what's the source of that direction? Is it from an outside source telling it to move? or is it intrinsic to the plasma itself? That would be mind-boggling. But that's what seems. Apparently, that may be what's happening.
Well, Dr. Tyson, Neil deGrasse Tyson, was talking about some of this. I think it was on the Joe Rogan Experience, and he likened, and maybe his interpretation has changed with more information coming to light. But in the discussion that they were having, he said some of the faults of the interpretations of this data could be within equipment malfunctioning or gauges not being properly assessed at the time of the event occurring, which I think is interesting. Again, as I was researching it, the electromagnetic effects of plasma have been shown to interfere with those things, right? So it's not completely out of the realm to think that both can be true, right? That there was some UAP or naturally occurring plasmic episode or phenomena occurring that also was interfering with some of the gauges or the instruments that people were saying.
No telling. That would be fun. Yeah, you can, for instance, you can have a gas of any kind, but in labs, it's been done. You can take a gas, say argon or something like that, and shine or point a high energy beam or say a laser at this gas cloud, and it will energize the atoms in such a way that it will form a plasma ball. One of the things that I think I would like to know more about, and maybe we can talk about it on the show or have someone join us who can talk about it. What are some of the adhesive properties of atoms or atomic nuclei in the plasma phase? Why do they stick together and not dissipate?
Yeah,
that would be interesting to me. I'm sure that that's out there, but that for me, that's where this has pointed. And there's things that we mentioned that ribonucleic acids forming in the center. There's other things that would form, but you could take the same plasma ball cluster that we made with the laser, and from some distance away, point another laser at that and interrupt that wave pattern of energy and that would correspond with sound waves, and you could get that laser, you could get the plasma ball to act as a speaker in some way. So there's some functionality you could get a plasma to do. So that's one of the topics of discussion that the paper and some of the imagery has generated.
Yeah, wow, that's
the mysteries of things plasmas do.
Yeah, I never would have even thought about some of those things that you're mentioning.
It's not something I thought about.
I don't know how my brain goes there,
It was new territory for mine as well.
I think I stretched my mind quite a bit when I looked at plasma in general, right? You're in a realm by yourself on that for this conversation anyway. Do you think that plasmas, so in the context of a UAP, do you think that plasmas could be just being naturally occurring plasma through electromagnetic force or reaction could be just being influenced by someone else, right? So maybe not some extraterrestrial being or entity, but a foreign government or something along those lines.
I don't know. I don't have enough information yet to form a belief or opinion, but I want to know more. I do see convincing video evidence of plasmas performing interesting movements that seem to be guided in some way. The possibilities on what could possibly guide those are already exotic to those who knew of only Newtonian physics prior to this. Is there a consciousness component? That's what every person who's connected to them says, and there's convincing video and footage of people doing just that, using consciousness to cause a change in action of these things, that I do not know.
You talked about RNA, or the formation of crystallized RNA in a plasma. Are we talking about non-biological life at that point?
Possibly. I don't know. It depends on what the definition of life is.
Yeah, what does that mean, right?
What does that mean? How do you define it?
What does it mean, or what's the significance of crystallized RNA in a plasma?
Well, I guess that would be sort of a pre-life precursor. Sort of a way. So if you think about, well, if life on Earth began spontaneously, and we're defining life on Earth as a system of proteins that first self-replicate and perform work or action in their environment. How did that start? Right? So it seems as we get smaller and smaller and smaller, the smallest bit that makes any sense by itself is the strand of DNA. Once you get smaller than that, you quit being, you just a handful of atoms. Mm-hmm. But that DNA is also in many other life forms as we recognize them. And is that unique to Earth? A lot of times, I think for a long time, you assume yes, because what are the odds that would happen? It just seems like such a strange molecule. But if you think of it not as this unique thing that a clever kid with an erector set put together, instead you see it just as this naturally forming crystal of forming ribonucleic acids that sort of have to cluster in this way, and it's agitated inside this cluster. Well, that's exactly how thermocyclers worked back in the lab. And so, oh, well, that makes sense. Oh, and if that's the case, then you can do that in any setting where there's plasmas for this to happen, and these things are naturally crystallizing in there. Now, you think, well, okay, well, even on Earth, how do you get these things to come apart? Well, you add heat, and it comes apart. It denatures. So how do you keep this happening from there inside a plasma? Wouldn't it be highly energized? And when it cools, maybe it comes into this. That I don't know. I think that's a frontier on even DNA science where this merges that previously would have been taboo. So if we were back in college and we were saying, hey, I want to talk about how RNA forms in plasmas. They said, well, okay, we're not taking that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna send him down the hall to someone else's class. Yeah, we're talking about potentially cutting edge scientific discoveries, right? And I don't want to derail the conversation too much here. Maybe we'll get into that more in another episode. But I want to kind of jump into, because we talked about plasma physics, I want to jump into the significance of these plasmas and how they relate to UAP, and specifically a paper that came out just in December from the Journal of Modern Physics, which to me is like Bigfoot doing a TED talk, right? It's how can you get more legitimate in the conversation than having the Journal of Modern Physics entering the chat, right?
Yeah.
They're becoming a part of the discussion now. So I'd like to jump into that, and for our listeners and our viewers, we'll drop this article into the comment section. It's 109 pages, so if you're like me, make sure you have 2 to 3 weeks to read through it. And if you have any questions, please don't ask.
A lot of it was pictures. I spent most of the time on the pictures.
Yeah,
that was the cool part.
Yeah, I did feel like I was a kid flipping through a board book, right? Just looking at the pictures. Whoa. Yeah,
I think that was the point of the article. When they were pulling that thing together, they said, "Oh, it's 109 pages. That's all right." Yeah. Flipping through it.
How can we make this engaging for the average person, right? And it worked. I think it was incredible. Again, we're having conversations that are, for me anyway, that can be likened to when Galileo said that the Earth didn't, or the sun didn't revolve around the Earth. The Earth revolved around the sun, right? We're talking about topics that is really just challenging the status quo, and it's a really unique time to be in science. But
if you knew it but we're heavily ridiculed for saying so. And now it's, well, no, this is how it is. They're saying this to Congress. The Congress is now saying, okay, this is out there, science. We need to start looking into it. So here we are. Here we are, nerds in the corner. We're talking about, well, what are we going to get into? Well, this is what we got to get into. We've got to know how plasmas work, because apparently there's a lot more to them than just what the sun's made of.
Yeah, exactly. So let's jump into our the Journal of Modern Physics paper here, just to kind of tick and tie all these things together, right? Really show the significance of a very well respected journal in the scientific community that has picked up this topic, right? So we'll drop this into the comments section or the bio of the episode, so you guys can take it and take a look at it. But we'll kick this off, right? The title of the article is in the Journal of Modern Physics was Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena, Extraterrestrial Life, Plasmoids, Shapeshifters, Replicons, Thunderstorms, Lightning, Hallucinations. Yes. Aircraft disasters and ocean sightings. What a tongue twister.
Boy, that's a title there, isn't it?
What a title on a paper. So essentially, what the article is exploring, Bill, from my understanding, is the hypothesis that plasmas observed in Earth's thermosphere might represent a form of pre-life or non-biological life, and it also ties these observations to the phenomena often classified in the discussions that we're having now as unidentified aerial phenomena. What are some of the key points that you picked up from the article when you read through?
Well, mostly that's the volume of information that they had, and over the length of time that they had. It was a decade of footage and material collected from multiple vantages, multiple flights, multiple sources, and was sort of it was an image dump as much as anything. Like, okay, we told you so. Here it is. Now that we have permission, it didn't. It had some proposals and some things and some known knowns, but it was almost sort of a exhibition. It was putting some things out here on the table and say, here you go, make sense of this world.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the behavioral analysis of plasma. So we talked about plasma physics and shared that a little bit with our audience, but this paper really dives into the fact that plasmas display behaviors such as acceleration, deceleration, and trajectory changes that could mimic lifelike actions. And I thought that was very intriguing that they dived into there. And then going back to some historical context and sharing some anecdotes from the World War II Foo Fighters significant event that happened to that group of individuals, which we'll touch on a little bit here in the future. But how did you feel as you was reading some of this information? What were some thoughts that were going through your head as you was exploring,
right?
The
especially in regards to historical accounts. They just, you hear stories about the Foo Fighters, you don't know what to make of it. It's just so strange. Is it angels? Is it demons? Is it aliens? Who knows?
Is it a Dan Brown novel?
Is it just completely made up? But there's some things that look very similar to that seen on other imagery. But I think there's going to be a lot of stories where accounts from the past are suddenly taken out of the file cabinet, dusted off, and says, well, the reason this story stuck back in the day was because it seemed really legit at the time, and it's just floating back around in its orbit and realigning, and this is legit, and still a question unanswered. But all those stepping stones that needed to be uncovered seem like they recently have, and so now it's that makes sense, or maybe we should, you're gonna have to quit laughing at Charles Hall. There might have been something out there at the Air Force Base,
Yeah, well, it's also it was a very interdisciplinary approach to the research. They used astrophysics, plasma physics and biology, and it was a combination of observational data, historical records. They had data from 10 separate NASA space shuttle missions, and then some anecdotal and photographic evidence from World War II and some Apollo missions that were shared. This goes back. This is several years of research. It's not just something someone threw together. We've talked a lot about permission granted. I think that may be the tagline for this episode, but it seems like they were just waiting for permission to be able to share this data because it's very well collected, I guess I'll say.
Yeah. Or was it what? And if they weren't waiting for permission, they were waiting to where the consequences weren't so bad,
right?
Of talking about it.
Yeah. No, that's a fair point. Some very high level and respected individuals and agencies were involved in this research. Let's talk a little bit about who partnered in this paper. So, Bill, there were some highly respected agencies and individuals involved with this paper. Let's talk a little bit about who brings some legitimacy to this discussion.
So first off, it listed as authors coming from the Astrobiology Research Center in California, the Department of Astronomy in the University of Arizona in Tucson, the Department of Vision Sciences in Birmingham, UK, Center for Astrophysics and Space Sciences, San Diego, Center for Astrophysics, Harvard, Cambridge. And there are others, and of course these are using NASA films with their permission.
Yeah, so some heavy hitters in the scientific community, a coalition of sorts of individuals that have come together and wanted to share this data with the general public. What do you think the implications are of these findings?
Well, I think first off, it's a big statement by NASA. NASA's probably had some criticism saying, you guys are using taxpayer money. You guys are a function of our government. We expect you to be open about this. And maybe this is them giving this information saying, okay, we're going to be open.
We are the American government, and we are open, and we're going to be open about this.
Well, thanks, if that's what it is. There's some more stuff. We hope you continue your openness. But I think the implications are that this information is now going to be available. It's going to be something you can talk about. If you write it up and do a good job in your research, it's going to get printed in reasonably respected journal articles, open for peer review, open for discussion, that won't be biased toward a mainstream opinion or toward some previous institutional bias that would have made talking about a science fact relevant.
Yeah, I think it also adds some cultural and philosophical significance. Specifically, we were talking about RNA and just the behavior of plasma. It kind of adds a layer of non-biological perspective to the UAP discussion, which I'm very curious to see, a response to this paper or a peer review of this paper to dive into that and answer some of those questions.
Yeah.
Or challenge some of those thought processes.
Yeah, or see where they go. And in a year from now, maybe look, you can do these reverse searches to see which papers have cited this paper as one of its references or sources.
One of the things I don't, there's a breakdown in circular reporting when it comes to these things. And what I hope doesn't happen is that we get, the topic becomes oversaturated with, we have to have fact finders.
That's right.
Right. To weed through some of this. I think it's such a unique topic and such an interesting topic, and people are going to be so intrigued by it that there's the opportunity for it to get bogged down with misinformation.
Oh, yeah. For sure. You will get some of that because you'll get old information that's been pulled out of the drawer and recirculated and mixed in with things that are already based off this information that was just obtained secretly. But you've also got a new generation of people, young people who are interested in talking about this. So, for instance, I was at a medical meeting last week, and there were some medical students there, and we could have talked about any topic: pediatrics, biology, chemistry, pharmacology. But what they wanted to know about was consciousness and non-human intelligence. So that was folks in medicine.
Yeah.
So think about folks going into physics or going into biochemistry or going into electrical engineering. I think these people are going to be, proposing their PhD projects. Well, how about this? Whereas before, no way, we would never let you do this. And now, well, I want to study a possible connection between this and non-human intelligence. Maybe it will go nowhere. Maybe it's absurd, but I don't think the answer is going to be universally no. And you'll be able to get funding diverted that way.
Yeah, that's a good point, right? I think, we're opening the door for topics of conversation that they previously existed, right? But the scientific community is saying, hey, now we're putting math to this, right? We're making these things make sense from a scientific perspective. And there's someone out there right now that could be listening to this episode, or someone just born that's going to revolutionize these topics in the coming years, and hopefully we'll be around to see it.
And the topic's not being addressed as if it's magic or something that's hidden from only a select few. Well, it's hidden because it was covered.
Yeah.
But it's actually available to anyone, and it's not a cult any longer.
Well, these discussions and these type of articles that are being released are helping demystify and scientifically ground UAP phenomena, right? Or any type of phenomena that we're discussing, things that we don't really understand today, that people are interested in understanding. They're now saying, well, I don't have to study dark matter. I don't have to try to prove string theory, right? My interest is in UAPs or plasma interactions, or how does plasma interact with cosmic evolution, right? These types of topics, and now it's going to encourage.
It's the same topic now.
Yeah, it's going to encourage and empower these individuals to go seek some of that.
Right. Yeah, it's really fun, and how it links specialties together. So I think, philosophy and physics and biology are there's going to be need for them to meet and discuss certain things now that they wouldn't have discussed before, and just linking certain things together that you wouldn't have thought had a connection before. That's going to generate new ideas. So I think we're at the dawn. Well, it's not just me. I think everyone on the planet realizes, that's aware of this. Of course, lots of folks are not even aware. They're just trying to make ends meet. I guess we have enough time left over at the end of the day. We can at least read the science news.
Right.
But for those who are interested, it's obvious that this is, the dawn. The dawn is where the sun comes up. Oh, at the edge of the planet. Well, it's a galactic dawn. It's a universal dawn.
Well, the from the Senate hearings to this paper being published, it's a rapid acceleration from topic to topic.
It is going fast, isn't it? Just so as of taping last night, of course, the future episodes may discuss this topic, but there's some sort of new footage where the helicopter pilot is lifting some sort of egg. Who knows what this turns out to be? Maybe it's a hoax, or maybe it's something incredible. But he also says that there's something consciousness related to this, and I want to see where that goes. Even if it's made up, it's just a fascinating story.
Yeah, and our premise of the show here is to provide facts, right? And this is a prestigious, peer-reviewed journal, right? And that lends credibility to the topic that we're discussing, right? We're not just on a podcast talking about things that we just made up or pretending that we know this information. I mean, this is legitimate. It's going from speculative to legitimate discussion.
Well said.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, I think it's incredible. What other things about this article did you find interesting, Bill?
Just an awareness that there's things going on out there, more to pay attention to. Of course, there's no more space shuttles that we know of, but just that there's activity, there's other things to watch are besides large man-made objects floating just above in low Earth atmosphere, low gravity. It's kind of cool, but well, you've seen it, right? You've seen the footage, but oh no, there's other things going on up there.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. It's made someone like me who likes the sciences, but I've not read this kind of material. I've been reading about other things. I've read about economics, read about medicine and things like that. There's a lot of stuff going on in other fields, but all of a sudden I don't know, it's just at the top of my interest priority. It just seems important to learn about. Maybe it's just because to me it's so interesting.
Yeah. No, it's incredibly.
But
it's
it
fascinating.
seems like it's important. It's deep in the physics field, but I don't know. It just seems like it's just time. Like oh, here we go.
What other burning questions? What other burning questions did you have after you read this? Watching the Senate hearing, reading this article, it just made me more curious. Number one, it also, I had to be honest with myself and say, hey, some of these things I just did not understand before. And now that I do have a very micro level of understanding, I'm super excited to continue to learn.
The burning question for me, especially about the plasmas, is what is the work they do? What is it they want to accomplish? Are they just curious? Are they? Is there any sentience at all? Do they want to partner with me? Are they something that wants to interact? Do they want to be left alone? Are they just trying to learn? I want to know the nature of it.
Yeah.
And see how consciousness relates. That to me is a major burning question that I don't know where to look and read about that. So I want to know that regard, like how it just seems like everyone that talks about it, everyone that's interacted with it, says that consciousness does play a role, even if they don't know how to describe it. It was obvious to them. So I would like to know what that does, and how can what we learn about this be helpful to us inhabitants of the planet, and what things do I need to know to live optimally on the planet, to do a good job. Here's my role as Bill C. the human. What do I need to know about these things to work with them or to utilize them, or whatever the possibilities are?
I'd partner with you any day, Bill. So I just want to say that. You made some great points there. I think because the more that we find out about this, and the more that we understand, right? Mm-hmm. It brings the world closer together, right? It really puts things in perspective, and it ties the human experience, of what we're seeing in the cosmos together, right?
Right.
Where we can, how do we fit as humans into the conversation? Well, I think we've covered a tremendous amount of ground in episode 1. I've had a great time talking to you, Bill, and learning a little bit more about plasma, UAPs, and the physics behind those things. Is there anything else that you'd like to talk about before we wrap up the show?
I think we better cut it off there. That's enough for any one person. But I would like to encourage all the viewers and listeners to please leave comments on what they know about the subject. If anyone would be interested in interviewing, let us know. We have some folks that we're reaching out to that we would love to talk specifically about these topics, but please leave comments and ideas and things for us to read and to learn more about some of the episodes that we talked about so that we can maybe get you on here to talk about it, or maybe connect dots together in the future.
Yeah, that's a great, Bill. Thanks for mentioning that. Please feel free to leave feedback. Please feel free to leave comments for us to check out. We will read through those, and it'll help guide us as we come up with our content in the future. But I've had a really fun time discussing these today, Bill. Thanks so much for your time.
It's been great.
All right.
If I have to tell you one more time,